They'd rather spend their lives bedridden than give up a tradition that's been passed down for centuries. This is the Cheese Rolling Festival at Cooper's Hill in Gloucestershire, England. Every May, the top of Cooper's Hill gets packed with thousands of spectators from around the world. Everyone's eyes are glued to a wheel of double Gloucester cheese. It's 30 centimeters across. Don't think people are staring at this cheese just out of curiosity or wanting to get the first taste. Behind this lies the most crucial rule of the festival's competition. Once the race starts, the judge throws the cheese down from the top for the contestants to chase. Whoever can catch the cheese as it rolls down becomes the champion. But after all these years, nobody's ever managed to do it. Since nobody can actually catch the cheese to win, it gradually became first one to reach the bottom wins. And because of this first to arrive wins goal, even knowing there are rocks scattered down the slope, and they'll probably get hurt rolling down, tons of people are still willing to risk everything charging downhill. What's even more baffling is, the prizes for this dangerous adventure are pretty pathetic. The champion only gets that cheese that rolled down the slope. Runner-up gets 10 pounds. Third place gets 3 coins. Compared to these meager rewards and the rocks hidden on the slope, plus the risk of possible bone fractures, it's really not worth it. But even so, the enthusiasm for participating hasn't diminished much. According to Gloucestershire's emergency services statistics, about a quarter of contestants need medical treatment every year. Most importantly, these are really common locally. The reason these injuries happen so frequently is actually tied to the track's characteristics. Because this high risk always exists, ambulances are permanently stationed at the bottom of the hill, just in case any contestant has an accident and needs immediate help. Why have countless people risked everything for 100 years to participate in Cooper's Hill cheese rolling? Actually, the faith carved into their bones has already given us a vivid answer. Based on stories passed down through generations and historical records, this festival was born. Among these clues, one story about the Middle Ages, though lacking solid historical evidence, is particularly detailed. Back then, grazing rights on Cooper's Hill belonged to the whole village, but the slope had no clear boundaries. The villagers accidentally discovered that rolling objects would naturally slide out to mark the land's borders, so they replaced the bundle of sticks initially used for ceremonies with cheese, which was easier to preserve. Even more interesting, they agreed that whoever caught the rolling cheese first would get priority to use that slope for grazing sheep the next year. This way of determining rights through competition saved time and effort compared to lawsuits. But then again, these details are ultimately just oral stories passed down through generations. No written or physical evidence was left behind, even though the origins are hard to trace. Starting in the 19th century, the nature of this festival gradually began to change. It was no longer a ritual about survival, but slowly became a test of courage. But the path of tradition is never smooth. For example, the 1993 competition had a serious accident. 15 contestants suffered severe injuries, fractures, and concussions. After the accident, public opinion immediately exploded. This was the first time in the festival's history that calls for complete cancellation emerged. Besides fierce public condemnation, practical pressure also followed. The traditional continuation was suddenly in multiple crises. Just when the tradition was on the verge of being interrupted, Brockworth villagers stepped forward. They petitioned in the name of tradition. Emphasizing this was a carrier of land-based faith spanning 500 years. Even more surprising, most of the injured also spoke out after recovering, stating that risk was always part of participation, and they didn't want centuries-old customs to disappear because of their injuries. Faced with the triple struggle between public opinion, people, and safety, Gloucestershire Council ultimately adopted a compromise solution. Don't cancel the festival, but require additional first aid stations and designated isolation zones. This tacit regulatory approach allowed the cheese to keep rolling, but also planted seeds for future problems. By 2009, skyrocketing insurance costs and increasing safety pressure finally crushed official support. The festival was forced to shut down. That was the first time Cooper's Hill was quiet during the spring bank holiday. No cheese rolling tracks, no crowds chasing tradition. But tradition's vitality often lies in ordinary people's obsessions. In 2013, local residents secretly gathered together. They didn't get official permission, had no medical support, but didn't forget safety. They specifically made fake cheese from foam as backup, worried real cheese rolling down might hurt people. That's how they brought the festival back. It seems like they felt no matter what, they couldn't forget tradition. As if they believed that if cheese didn't roll down the slope, the mountain would fall asleep. Even during the pandemic when no one could compete, organizers would still push cheese down the hill on schedule, letting it roll down the steep slope to the bottom, just to keep the tradition alive. The cheese in the festival is no longer ordinary food. It's a symbol of the land's gifts, a bond connecting ancestors. Today, Cooper's Hill cheese rolling has become a world-famous folk activity, but its core has never changed. People aren't chasing cheese. They're chasing tradition carved into their bloodline.